Hello and welcome to the topic for Week 6, Rights, Ethics and Justice. My name is Kate and this presentation will explore an environmental case study that had implications for human rights and justice. The case study I have chosen is oil extraction in the Ecuadorian Amazon by the company Chevron Texaco. But first, let's discuss the history of environmental justice. The environmental justice movement started in the US around the 1980s when reports began to surface uncovering that minority populations and low-income communities were more likely to be living in environmentally damaged and dangerous areas. The environmental justice movement gained momentum over the 1990s. The US government established the Environmental Protection Agency and the National Environmental Justice Advisory Council. Today, the movement consists of many private and government organisations aiming to ensure minority communities are not denied their environmental rights. The term environmental rights imply the right to live in a clean, healthy environment with access to natural resources such as air, land and water for survival. Additionally, the term encompasses one's right to information for environmental decision-making, to participate in this decision-making, and to access nature's intrinsic values, thus promoting sustainability. Adjaman et al. Defines sustainability as guaranteeing a fair and good quality of life for all people in the present and the future, whilst living within the means of the planet's natural resources. This definition highlights the interconnectedness of human rights and the environmental justice movement. The environmental justice movement extends past racism to include other groups who are marginalised against, such as women, children, and the impoverished, regardless of ethnicity. Whilst the movement began in the United States, there are examples of environmental justice campaigns all around the world, such as in Ecuador. Lago Agrio is an oil-rich area located in the east of Ecuador's Amazon. In 1964, American company Texaco, now Chevron, began exploring oil in this area. As the Ecuadorian government had no experience in oil extraction, they trusted Chevron Texaco's practices and environmental standards. Chevron Texaco built substandard infrastructure and used old polluting technology to extract 1.5 billion barrels of oil from 1964 to 1992. During and after extraction, the company admittedly dumped more than 60 billion litres of toxic waste in the area, resulting in irreversible environmental damage. Before the contract was up, Chevron Texaco hired a company to complete an environmental audit of the region. However, these results were never made public due to a confidentiality agreement between the company and the Ecuadorian government. Furthermore, the Ecuadorian government received $40 million in compensation to clean and restore the site, but this was done inadequately. In 1993, a class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of 30,000 Ecuadorian villagers against Chevron Texaco in the District Court of New York for damages to their health and the region's ecosystems. However, in 1996, a judge dismissed the case due to it being outside the court's jurisdiction. Ongoing legal battles ensued, and in 2013, the Ecuadorian Supreme Court recognised that Chevron Texaco's actions violated the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and ordered the company to pay $9.5 billion in damages. Yet the company refused to pay compensation, citing that the Ecuadorian judgment was unlawful. Some of the environmental impacts as a result of Chevron Texaco's activities include soil and water contamination, air pollution, biodiversity and vegetation loss. A region that previously possessed high biodiversity and abundant resources, the oil extraction and subsequent pollution in Lago Agrio denied the locals their basic human rights. Furthermore, the oil contamination has resulted in livestock deaths and infertile soil, impacting local farmers' livelihoods. Other socio-economic impacts from the oil extraction include an increase in unemployment, lack of work security, corruption, loss of culture, and landscape. Indigenous tribe members have been forced to flee to other areas or are now extinct due to the negative health impacts of the oil pollution. Some of the negative health impacts associated with the oil exposure include higher rates of miscarriages, infant mortality, child malnutrition and cancer compared to populations not living in oil-contaminated areas of Ecuador. Whilst Chevron Texaco has been fined and the courts have finally ruled in favour of the people of Lago Agrio, the clear violation of rights and justice for the locals and their environment cannot be ignored. To this day, people in the area are feeling the negative effects of the oil pollution and the effects will be felt for generations to come. Environmental justice activists state that transnational corporations tend to place their dirtiest and most dangerous productions in locations where there is the least amount of resistance, hence why studies have shown that the most poor and vulnerable people live in some of the most environmentally damaged areas around the world. The increase in competition within the global market has led to many transnational corporations using unsustainable practices as a means to increase profit. As was the case with Chevron Texaco, their use of outdated technology resulted in irreversible damage to the region, denying the locals their basic human rights of access to a clean, safe environment. Aside from the clear violation of human rights, Chevron Texaco treated the natural environment of Lago Agrio as a replaceable commodity. Plumwood highlights that given the current situation of environmental destruction around the globe, humans need to consider nature and its beings as highly important and irreplaceable. Though the environmental justice movement is about the fair share of environmental burdens, it goes beyond this, also promoting the environmental positives and advocating for the complete elimination of negatives. Given what has happened in Lago Agrio, activists are campaigning against oil extraction, stating leave the oil in the soil. The case study of Chevron Texaco's oil extraction and pollution in Ecuador demonstrates the negative ongoing implications on the local people and Indigenous tribes. The environmental justice movement continues in developed and developing nations to protect the world's most marginalised and vulnerable people and the environments they live in. Thank you.